Hello, amazing English learners, and welcome back to the Best English Podcast. I'm your host, Sophia, and I am absolutely thrilled to be here with you today. I hope you're all having a fantastic day, wherever you are in the world. Now, let's dive straight into a topic that I know really hits home for so many of you, because, let's be real, I hear about it all the time from my students, and honestly, I've even been there myself when learning new languages. How to speak English fluently without those awkward, confidence-draining pauses. You know the feeling, don't you? It's a super common situation, one that almost every English learner has faced, and it can feel like a real moment of panic. So, you're in the middle of a chat, maybe just talking about your weekend plans with a new friend. Or perhaps you're trying to explain something important to a colleague at work, and then, silence. It's like your brain suddenly hits a giant stop button, and everything just grinds to a halt. Your mind just goes completely blank. You start searching desperately for a word that feels like it's just out of reach, like it's floating somewhere in your head, just beyond your grasp. And then, without meaning to, you find yourself saying, or or just nothing at all. It can be incredibly frustrating, can't it? It makes you feel less confident, sometimes even a little embarrassed, and honestly, it often makes you want to just clam up altogether to avoid speaking English because of that fear of getting stuck. But please, don't let it. Because today, we're going to tackle this head-on. We're going to pull back the curtain on why those pauses pop up in the first place, and then we'll equip you with a fantastic toolkit of practical, actionable strategies and a renewed mindset to help you speak English more smoothly, more naturally, and with so much more confidence. We're going to make those pauses a thing of the past, or at least a much less frequent and much less worrisome occurrence. Now, when we talk about fluency, it's easy to get caught up in the idea of speaking super fast, like a machine gun spitting out words, or never making a single mistake ever. But let me tell you, that's really not what true fluency is all about. In fact, that's a common misunderstanding, a myth that can actually hold you back. Think about it. Even native speakers pause. Even I, Sophia, your podcast host, will sometimes take a breath or a tiny moment to gather my thoughts, especially if I'm trying to explain something a bit complicated or formulate a new idea on the spot. True fluency is about getting your ideas across effectively and naturally. It's about being able to keep the conversation flowing, to express yourself clearly without constantly breaking your rhythm, and to feel comfortable and confident in what you're saying. It's about making a genuine connection with your listener, building bridges with your words, not striving for perfection in every single syllable. It's about communication, not flawless execution. Think of it more like a gentle river flowing, not a rushing waterfall. You get the idea, right? So, what can you expect from our time together today? We're going to begin by really digging into why those pauses happen, getting to the bottom of the why before we get to the how. Then, we'll dive deep into practical, actionable strategies that you can start using right away. Strategies that have truly helped countless students, just like you, overcome this common hurdle. We'll weave in real-life examples, share some heartfelt stories from my own experiences and those of my students, and of course, we'll have some interactive practice prompts that you can do right along with me. This isn't just about passively listening. It's about actively doing, about getting your brain and your voice engaged in the process. Remember, learning a language is a journey, a wonderful adventure, not a sprint. And every small step forward is a huge victory worth celebrating. So, let's make some progress together, one smooth sentence at a time. And just for a bit of fun, throughout this episode, I want you to join me on the Pause Patrol. As you listen to my stories and examples, and even as you think about your own speaking, I want you to try and spot moments where a pause might pop up, and then think about how the strategies we discuss could help smooth things over or even get rid of it. It's a little mini challenge just for you, a way to keep your mind engaged and apply what you're learning in real time. Now, let's begin by really figuring out why we pause. It's kind of like trying to fix a leaky faucet without knowing where the leak is coming from. You can try to catch the drips with a bucket, but until you identify the source of the leak, you're just putting a Band-Aid on the problem. Once we pinpoint the root causes, we can start to apply the right solutions, rather than just patching things up. One of the most common reasons, and perhaps the most frustrating, is simply searching for vocabulary. You know that feeling, don't you? The word is right there, on the tip of your tongue, so close you can almost taste it. You can almost feel it, but it just won't come out. It's like trying to grab a slippery fish with your bare hands, or reaching for something just out of reach on a high shelf. This isn't necessarily about not knowing the word at all. Often, it's a word you recognize instantly when you read it in a book or hear it in a song. That's what we call your passive vocabulary. You understand it perfectly when it's presented to you. But when it comes to speaking, we need to activate those words. Move them into your active vocabulary, the words you can produce effortlessly and spontaneously. Think of it like this. Your passive vocabulary is like a huge library of books you've read and understood, but your active vocabulary is like the handful of books you've practically memorized key passages from and can quote instantly, without even thinking. You know them inside and out, ready to be used at a moment's notice. I remember a student named Anya, a fantastic learner who just loved talking about her hobbies. She was really into cooking and had recently bought a new kitchen gadget, something pretty cool and innovative for slicing vegetables. She was so excited to tell me all about it, but she kept getting stuck. "Sophia," she'd start, her brow furrowed in concentration, her eyes darting around as if searching for the missing word in the air. "I bought this new thingy. It's for cutting vegetables really fast, and it's super useful thing." She'd pause, visibly frustrated, often resorting to vague terms like thingy or useful thing to fill the void. This wasn't because she didn't know the words in theory. She'd seen them before. She understood them when I said them. It was because they weren't active enough, not readily available for spontaneous, fluid use in a conversation. Her brain had to work too hard to retrieve them, and that caused the delay. Another student, Leo, faced a similar challenge when trying to describe how he felt after watching a new movie. Instead of saying it was captivating or it was truly disappointing, he'd get stuck. And you'd hear him say, it was, good, yeah, good, or not good. He knew those more descriptive words, but they just weren't popping up fast enough when he was speaking. It's that moment where you know the word exists, you've heard it a million times, but your brain just can't grab it fast enough. It's like trying to find a specific book in a library that's completely unorganized. You know the book is there, but finding it takes ages. Another big reason, and one I see quite often, is translating in your head. The inner translator. This is a habit many of us pick up, especially when we first start learning a new language. It goes something like this. You hear something in English, your brain mentally translates it into your native language. You then figure out a response in your native language, and only then do you translate that response back into English before finally speaking? It's like having a tiny, very slow interpreter living inside your brain, diligently working through every single sentence before you can say it. This multi-step process, while it might seem helpful at first, creates a huge bottleneck, a linguistic traffic jam that just grinds your speech to a halt. It's simply not going to work for natural, flowing conversation. It's too slow, too cumbersome, and it puts too much strain on your mental resources. Consider my student, Marco, who was trying to explain a common saying from his language. It literally translated to, "The cat is on the roof," and in his culture, it meant something was very obvious. He wanted to get that idea across in English, but instead of finding an English equivalent like "it's plain as day" or "it's obvious," he spent a good 10 seconds mentally translating his saying, then trying to explain the literal meaning in English. So, in my country, when something is very clear, we say, "The cat is on the roof," because you can see the cat on the roof. While his effort was sweet and quite endearing, it totally broke the flow of the conversation, and his listener was, understandably, pretty confused about the cat's whereabouts. This constant internal translation process is a huge source of those long, uncomfortable silences that just mess up your rhythm and make it hard for others to follow along. It's like trying to have a direct conversation through a very slow messenger. I also had a student, Chloe, who would try to translate every single item on a restaurant menu in her head before ordering. She knew the English words for most of the dishes, but the habit of mentally translating chicken to her native language, then back to English, before saying, "I'd like the chicken," caused noticeable delays. It's a habit we all need to break if we want to speak smoothly. It's like trying to communicate with someone through 2 different phone calls at once. It just slows everything down. Then there's grammar uncertainty. This happens when you're not entirely sure about the correct sentence structure, the right verb tense, or how to use prepositions properly. You might know all the individual words, you might even have a good grasp of the general meaning, but you hesitate because you're overthinking the rules, terrified of making a mistake. You might start a sentence, then stop abruptly, mentally reviewing the past simple versus the present perfect, or wondering if you should say "I will go" or "I am going to go" for a future event. It's like being on a tightrope, constantly worried about falling with every step you take. I recall a conversation with Elena, a really diligent student who was telling me about her exciting weekend. She wanted to say, "I went to the market," a perfectly simple sentence. But then she paused. "I went to the market." She knew both tenses, she understood the difference in theory, but the fear of picking the wrong one, of sounding incorrect or ungrammatical, made her second-guess herself and caused a noticeable delay. This constant self-correction and fear of imperfection can really slow down your speech, turning a simple statement into a hesitant struggle. It's a common trap for learners who are very focused on accuracy, sometimes at the expense of fluency. Another common one is mixing up "I have been to" versus "I went to" when talking about past experiences. A student might say, "Last year I have been to Paris," then pause, realize it sounds a bit off, and correct themselves to "No, I went to Paris." This self-correction is good for learning, but it breaks the flow of conversation. It's like constantly double-checking your map for every single turn, even if you know the general direction. And let's not forget the powerful emotional side, lack of confidence or anxiety. Sometimes it's not about vocabulary or grammar at all, but simply the fear of judgment, the immense pressure to be perfect, or just general nervousness. This can make you freeze up, even if you know exactly what to say. The words are there, perfectly formed in your mind, but the courage to actually say them isn't quite ready to join the party. It's like having stage fright, even when you're just talking to one person or even to yourself. My student, Liam, was a prime example of this. He knew his English pretty well and could write beautifully, but he was incredibly shy and prone to anxiety in social situations. He'd often tell me, "Sophia, I know the answer in class, but when the teacher calls on me, my mind just goes blank. My heart starts pounding and I can't speak." Even ordering a simple coffee at a cafe would be a struggle. He knew the phrases, "Can I have a latte, please?" But the simple act of saying it out loud in front of a barista would cause him to hesitate, stammer, and sometimes just point at the menu, his face flushing. The pause here wasn't about language knowledge, it was about the psychological barrier of anxiety, a fear of being judged or making a public mistake. This is a very real and common issue for many language learners, and it's one we can absolutely work on. I remember another student, Ben, who was at a social gathering with English speakers. He had so many interesting things to say, but when someone asked him a direct question, he'd get a lump in his throat, and his mind would just go blank. He'd blush and say, I don't know, even though he did. That fear of not sounding perfect or of being misunderstood can really shut down your ability to speak. It's like having a great idea for a joke, but being too nervous to tell it. Now, it's super important to tell the difference between these types of disruptive pauses and natural thinking time. Not all pauses are bad. In fact, some pauses are essential for clear communication. Sometimes, even fluent native speakers pause to process complex ideas, to put together a nuanced argument, or to pick just the right word for emphasis or dramatic effect. These are often shorter, more strategic pauses, almost like a mental pause, a comma or a period in your thoughts, giving both the speaker and the listener a moment to breathe and process. For example, if I were explaining something a bit intricate on this podcast, I might naturally pause for a moment to make sure my explanation is perfectly clear and concise. The key to this strategy is understanding the subtle difference between active and passive listening. That's a natural pause for thought, a moment for clarity, not a sign of struggling for words. The pauses we're focusing on today are the ones that really mess up communication, make you feel stuck, and just get in the way of you expressing yourself freely. We want to eliminate those, not the natural ones. So, why does too much pausing matter? Well, it can really throw off the flow of a conversation, making it harder for your listener to follow your ideas and sometimes even making them a little impatient. Imagine trying to listen to a song that keeps stopping and starting. It's frustrating. It can also make you seem less confident or less capable than you actually are, which is a real shame because you've worked so incredibly hard to learn English. And most importantly, it can make you feel frustrated, discouraged, and less motivated to speak. But the wonderful news is we can absolutely work on this, and you have all the potential to really improve. It's a skill, and like any skill, it can be learned and refined. Let's move on to the exciting part, the strategies for cutting down on those pauses, starting with how we approach vocabulary and how we train our brains to think directly in English. These are foundational skills that will truly transform your speaking. First up, let's talk about building an active vocabulary for fluency. As we discussed with Anya, it's not enough to just recognize words when you see or hear them. We need to internalize them, make them readily accessible, like a well-organized toolbox where every tool is right where you expect it to be, ready for use at a moment's notice. This goes beyond simply memorizing long lists of isolated words. While flashcards are a great starting point, the real magic happens when you learn words in context, really getting a feel for their nuances, their synonyms, their antonyms, and especially their collocations. Those words that naturally, habitually go together. Think about the word decision. You could just learn its definition, a choice. But imagine how much more powerful and useful it is to learn phrases and related words with it. For example, instead of just learning decision, think about how much more powerful it is to learn phrases like to make a decision, as in, I need to make a decision about my university, or to reach a decision, like, after a lot of talking, the team finally reached a decision. You might also hear a tough decision, as in, leaving my hometown was a tough decision to make, or a quick decision, he had to make a quick decision in the moment. Even to regret a decision, sometimes I regret that decision, and its opposite, indecision. Do you see how much richer that learning is? It immediately gives you whole phrases or chunks of language that you can use without having to build them from scratch, word by word. You're not just learning a single brick. You're learning how that brick connects to other bricks to build a strong, stable wall of sentences. This significantly cuts down on your thinking time and, as a result, your pauses. You're pulling out ready-made components, not building from scratch every time. Another incredibly powerful approach is thematic vocabulary. Instead of random words, group them by common topics you talk about in your daily life. If you know you're going to talk about travel, learn words like itinerary, accommodation, destination, local cuisine, sightseeing, souvenir, passport, boarding pass. If you're discussing work or your studies, focus on deadline, project, colleague, meeting, presentation, feedback, report, research. This way, when you jump into a conversation on a specific topic, you already have a cluster of related words and phrases ready to go, like a pre-packed suitcase for your mind, specifically for that trip. I had a student named Sarah who was getting ready for a really important job interview. She was super nervous about pausing, especially when answering questions about her experience and skills. Instead of just reviewing general vocabulary, we focused intensely on job-specific themes. We brainstormed and practiced words related to problem-solving, like challenge, solution, overcome, approach, innovate, and teamwork, like collaborate, support, contribute, synergy, cooperate, and achievements like accomplish, succeed, milestone, impact, deliver results. We didn't just write them down, we used them in mock interview answers, practicing them out loud over and over again. When she went into her interview, she felt so much more prepared. She wasn't searching for individual words. She was pulling out ready-made phrases like, I collaborated closely with my team to achieve this goal, or I was able to overcome that challenge by implementing a new approach. This thematic preparation significantly cut down on her pauses, made her sound incredibly articulate, and boosted her confidence immensely. She even got the job, which was fantastic. This just goes to show how targeted vocabulary can make a huge difference. And here's a practical tip that often gets overlooked but is truly invaluable. When you use a learner's dictionary or an online thesaurus, don't just look at the definition. Pay close attention to the example sentences. They show you how the word is actually used in real, natural contexts. Look for the prepositions that go with verbs like depend on, listen to, agree with, and notice common phrases. This is where the real learning for fluency happens, where you bridge the gap between knowing a word and being able to actually use it in a sentence. Now for a quick practice activity, right here, right now. Let's play a mini word association game. I'm going to give you a word, and I want you to quickly, in your head or out loud if you're somewhere private, think of 3 words or phrases that immediately come to mind when you hear it. Don't overthink it, just go with your first instincts. The faster you can make these connections, the more active your vocabulary becomes. Ready? Your first word is opportunity. Take a few seconds. What popped into your head? Maybe chance, take advantage, growth, future, lucky, grab it. Fantastic. Any of those are great. The goal is speed and connection. Your next word, challenge. Again, a few seconds for you to think. Did you think of difficult, overcome, problem, solution, growth, obstacle, face it? Excellent! This simple exercise, done regularly, helps train your brain to make quicker connections between words, which is exactly what we need for cutting down on pauses. Keep practicing this whenever you learn new vocabulary, even for just a minute or two. It builds mental agility. Moving on from vocabulary, let's talk about a real game changer for fluency, one that directly addresses our inner translator, thinking directly in English. This is perhaps the hardest habit to break, but also one of the most rewarding and transformative. The goal is to get rid of that mental middleman, that tiny interpreter we talked about earlier. We want to train your brain to connect concepts directly to English words and phrases, bypassing your native language altogether. It's like building a direct superhighway in your brain, instead of a winding, slow country road with many detours. I remember my student, Maria, who was absolutely determined to stop translating. She felt like her brain was constantly running 2 languages at once, and it was exhausting, slowing her down immensely. I gave her a simple, yet profoundly effective challenge. For just 15 minutes every day, she had to try to have an inner monologue in English. This meant narrating her daily activities to herself, in her head as they happened, without translating. So, she'd tell me excitedly a few weeks later, when I woke up, I would think, okay, I need to make coffee. Where's the coffee maker? Oh, it's on the counter. Now I need to add water. Then, when I was walking to work, I would describe the street. The sky is blue today. There are many cars. That building is really tall. Oh, look, a dog. It felt so strange at first, like I was talking to myself, but it worked. At first, Maria said it felt incredibly awkward and slow, like her brain was moving through thick mud. She'd still find herself automatically translating. But she stuck with it, consistently doing her 15 minutes every day. After about 2 weeks, something truly shifted. She noticed that she was no longer consciously translating. The English words were just there, appearing directly in her thoughts. She was thinking directly in English, and it was liberating. This simple, continuous practice, done consistently, literally rewired her brain. It's like building a new pathway in your brain. The more you use it, the stronger, faster, and more automatic it becomes. It becomes second nature. So, your next actionable strategy is to try this no translation zone rule. Actively try to stop yourself from translating, and specifically, try the inner monologue in English. Narrate your daily activities to yourself. When you're washing dishes, describe the process. I'm washing the plate. It's a blue plate with flowers. Now I'm rinsing it under the tap. When you're waiting in line at the grocery store, Describe the people around you. That person has a red hat. They are looking at their phone. The line is moving pretty slowly. It might feel silly or a little strange at first, but it's a profoundly powerful way to build mental agility and speed in English. And to take this a step further, start using English for daily tasks that don't involve speaking to someone else. Make your shopping lists in English. Write your to-do lists in English. If you keep a journal, try writing a few sentences in English every day about your thoughts or feelings. Even simple things like thinking about what you want for dinner or planning your outfit for tomorrow can be done entirely in English. These small, consistent integrations of English into your everyday life will make a huge difference in training your brain to think directly in the language, naturally cutting down on those pauses. Let's do another quick practice right now, building on that idea of direct thinking. I want you to take a moment, look around wherever you are right now, and silently or out loud if you can. Describe 3 objects you see in English. Try to use simple sentences, and the key is, don't translate. Just connect the object directly to the English words. Did you describe a comfortable chair, a bright lamp, or a wooden table? Perhaps a colorful book or a warm blanket? Excellent. The key is to make that direct connection between the object and its English name without the detour through your native language. This is how you build speed and automaticity. So far, we've talked about building an active vocabulary by learning words in context and chunks, and training your brain to think directly in English through inner monologues and daily tasks. These are foundational steps to really cutting down on those frustrating pauses. Remember, it's all about making English a natural extension of your thoughts, not a laborious translation exercise. Now, let's shift our focus to how we can manage grammar uncertainty and really get our speech flowing better. This is where many learners often get stuck, overthinking every single sentence, trying to put together perfect, complex grammatical structures. It's like trying to build a complicated machine from scratch every time you speak. A crucial strategy here is to master common sentence structures. Instead of trying to perfect every single obscure grammar rule, focus on the high-frequency patterns that make up the vast majority of everyday conversations. Think about the simple subject-verb-object, SVO, structure. I went to the store. She likes coffee. They watched a movie. These are the absolute building blocks of English. Don't get bogged down in trying to use complex conditional tenses or inverted structures right away. Your primary goal is to get your message across clearly, and often, simple, direct sentences are the most effective and the easiest to produce without hesitation. They are clear, concise, and easy for your listener to follow. I had a student named David who was getting ready for a really important presentation at work. He was incredibly knowledgeable about his topic, truly an expert, but his speech was full of pauses because he was constantly trying to put together very complex sentences with multiple clauses and perfect conditional tenses. He'd start, if I had been able to implement this, then the results would have been much better. It was exhausting for him, and honestly, a bit hard for the audience to follow, despite his brilliant ideas. His message got lost in the complexity. We worked on simplifying. I encouraged him to break down his complex thoughts into shorter, clearer sentences. Instead of that convoluted conditional, we practiced, I wanted to implement this. I couldn't. But if I could have, the results would have been much better. Or, even simpler, this implementation was difficult. The results could have been better. By focusing on these simpler, more direct structures, He found he could speak much more smoothly and with far fewer pauses, even when talking about incredibly complex ideas. His message became crystal clear, and his confidence soared. He realized that clarity and flow were more important than trying to do grammatical acrobatics, and his audience appreciated it too. Another incredibly powerful technique is to practice with sentence starters and connectors. These are like the linguistic glue that holds your ideas together, and they also buy you a tiny bit of thinking time without sounding like you're searching for words. Instead of an or a silent blank, you can use a natural connector that signals your next thought. Think about common phrases like, I think that. Zrenia, zrenia, zrenia. Component placement, on the one hand, on the other hand. Zrenia, as a matter of fact. Zrenia, to be honest. Swing, it goes without saying. Zrenia, zrenia. These are ready-made phrases or chunks that native speakers use all the time. They sound incredibly natural, and they give you a crucial moment to formulate your next thought while still keeping the conversation flowing. David, my student with the presentation, started incorporating these. Instead of a long, awkward pause before introducing a contrasting point, he'd smoothly say, "However, we faced some challenges." This sounded much more professional, more fluent, and more confident than a silent struggle. They are like little signposts guiding your listener. Let's try a quick practice activity right now, building on this idea of connectors. I'm going to give you 2 simple sentences, and I want you to connect them using one of the common connectors we just discussed. Try to say the combined sentence out loud, focusing on a smooth transition. Ready? First pair. I love learning English. It can be challenging sometimes. How did you connect them? Perhaps, I love learning English. However, it can be challenging sometimes. Or, I love learning English, but it can be challenging sometimes. Or even, I love learning English. Having said that, it can be challenging sometimes. Great. The key is the smooth transition. Second pair. I studied hard for the exam. I passed with flying colors. You might have said, I studied hard for the exam, therefore, I passed with flying colors. Or, I studied hard for the exam. As a result, I passed with flying colors. Or even, I studied hard for the exam. Consequently, I passed with flying colors. Excellent. These connectors are your best friends in fluency, making your speech flow seamlessly. Now, let's talk about something a little controversial, but very realistic. Embracing filler words. Wisely. I know. We're trying to cut down on pauses, and are classic fillers. But here's the truth. Even fluent native speakers use fillers. The key is to tell the difference between excessive, distracting fillers, like a constant, that makes you sound uncertain, and more natural, strategic fillers that buy you a crucial moment to think without completely stopping the conversation. Think about words like, well, like used sparingly and naturally, not constantly. I mean, so, right, actually. These can actually be pretty useful. They are temporary bridges that keep the sound going while your brain catches up, allowing you to formulate your next thought. They are much less jarring and noticeable than complete silence. For example, instead of, I went to the store and I bought some apples, you could say, I went to the store, well, actually, I bought some apples. The well, actually gives you a tiny moment to recall the specific item or to clarify your thought. Or, it was a difficult situation, very complex and with many layers. The invites the listener into your thought process, making it feel more natural and conversational. The trick is to use them strategically, not too much. They are a temporary bridge, a little breathing room, not a permanent solution. Your ultimate goal is to reduce the need for any filler by improving your active vocabulary and direct thinking. But in the meantime, a natural well, or you know, is far better than a long, uncomfortable silence that screams, "I'm stuck." This also ties into learning common idiomatic expressions and those chunks of language we discussed earlier. Phrases like, "as a matter of fact," "to be honest," "it goes without saying," "believe it or not," "at the end of the day," "by the way," are fantastic because they are ready-made, pre-packaged linguistic units. You don't have them to put them together word by word. They just flow out naturally because you've heard them and practiced them as a single entity. Instead of pausing to think how to express your honesty, you can simply say, "To be honest, I didn't enjoy the movie." This sounds incredibly natural and fluent, and it saves you precious seconds of processing time. Finally, for managing grammar uncertainty and getting your overall flow better, let's talk about the power of paraphrasing and simplification. This is a true lifesaver when you can't find the exact word or phrase you're looking for. Don't get stuck. If you can't remember the precise technical term for something, don't freeze. Just describe it simply using words you already know. It's about getting the message across, even if it's not with the perfect word. I had a student, Kenji, who was trying to explain a very specific scientific concept, refraction, during a casual chat with a new friend. He couldn't remember the precise technical term. Instead of pausing for a long time, looking frustrated, he quickly rephrased. "It's like, that thing where the light bends when it goes through water. It makes things look different, like a spoon in a glass of water." He used simpler words he knew to describe the concept, and the conversation just kept going smoothly. His new friend understood perfectly, even without the technical term, and Kenji felt proud that he didn't get stuck. This is a crucial skill for maintaining flow. My mantra for you is, clear is better than complex. If you have a complex idea, break it down into shorter, simpler sentences. Don't try to cram everything into one long, convoluted sentence that even a native speaker might struggle to follow. This makes it easier for you to produce and infinitely easier for your listener to understand. It reduces the cognitive load on your brain, allowing you to speak more smoothly and confidently. Let's try a quick describe it simply practice. I'm going to give you a slightly more complex concept, and I want you to try and describe it using only simple, everyday words, as if you were explaining it to a child. Ready? Describe photosynthesis. You might have said, "It's how plants make their own food using sunlight and water." Or, "It's when plants use the sun to grow." Perfect. You didn't need scientific jargon. You conveyed the core idea simply and clearly, without hesitation. This is a skill you can apply to anything. These strategies, mastering common sentence structures, using connectors and strategic fillers, and embracing paraphrasing and simplification, are incredibly powerful for really boosting your spoken English flow and cutting down on those hesitant pauses. They give you tools to keep the conversation moving, even when your brain needs a tiny moment to catch up. Now, we've covered a lot of ground regarding vocabulary, direct thinking, grammar, and flow. But none of these strategies will truly stick without the right mindset and consistent practice. This next section is all about building that inner confidence and making speaking English a natural, joyful part of your life. Because ultimately, fluency isn't just about knowing words, It's about having the courage and consistency to use them, to put them out there. First and foremost, you must embrace mistakes as learning opportunities. This is perhaps the most crucial mindset shift you can make, and it's one I constantly emphasize with my students. The fear of making mistakes is a huge barrier to fluency, and it's a primary reason why many of us pause. We're so worried about saying something wrong, about sounding imperfect, that we hesitate, overthink every single word, and then freeze up. But here's the liberating truth. Everyone makes mistakes, even native speakers. Mistakes are not failures, they are feedback. They are signposts on your learning journey, showing you exactly where you need to focus next. They are proof that you are trying, that you are pushing your boundaries, and that is something to be celebrated. I remember a student named Emma. She was so afraid of mispronouncing words or using the wrong grammar that she would often whisper her answers or just avoid speaking altogether in class. When she did speak, her sentences were punctuated by long, nervous pauses as she mentally corrected every single sound and every grammatical choice. She was exhausted by the effort, and it showed. We started working on what I call the growth mindset. I encouraged her to view every mistake as a chance to learn and grow. We even started celebrating her errors. If she mispronounced a word, we'd laugh together, I'd gently correct it, and she'd repeat it with a smile. Slowly, she started to realize that the world wouldn't end if she said something imperfectly. In fact, her willingness to make mistakes and learn from them actually helped her improve faster than many of her peers who were still paralyzed by the fear of imperfection. She stopped pausing so much because the immense pressure to be perfect was gone, replaced by a genuine curiosity to learn and improve. A fantastic way to objectively spot your own pause patterns and gain confidence is to record yourself speaking. I know, it sounds awkward. Most people cringe when they hear their own voice played back. But trust me, it's incredibly effective and insightful. Grab your phone, open the voice recorder app, and just talk for 60 seconds about your day, your plans for the weekend, or even just describe your room. Then, listen back. Don't judge yourself harshly. Just listen for where you pause. Are you searching for words? Are you translating? Are you hesitating due to grammar? Once you pinpoint these patterns, you can then apply the specific strategies we've discussed. It's like being your own personal language coach, giving yourself tailored feedback. This simple act of self-observation can provide invaluable insights and guide your practice more effectively than any textbook. Next, let's talk about immersion and active listening. You're already doing a great job by listening to this podcast. But let's take it a step further. When you listen to native speakers, whether it's on a podcast, a TV show, a movie, or in a real conversation, pay attention not just to what they say, but how they say it. Listen for their natural speech patterns, their intonation, their rhythm, and critically, where they pause. You'll notice that native speakers don't speak in a continuous, unbroken stream of words without any breaks. They pause for breath, for emphasis, to transition between ideas, or to allow the listener to process information. By observing this, you'll start to get a feel for the natural rhythm of English and realize that not every pause is a sign of struggle. Some are deliberate and natural, part of the flow. For a powerful active listening exercise, try shadowing practice. This is where you listen to a short audio clip, perhaps a sentence or two from this podcast, or a clip from a show you enjoy, and then immediately try to repeat it, mimicking the speed, intonation, and rhythm as closely as possible. It's like being an echo, a linguistic shadow. This trains your mouth and brain to produce English sounds and patterns more automatically, reducing the need to consciously think about each word. It's a fantastic way to develop muscle memory for speaking and to internalize the natural flow of English. Start with short phrases and gradually increase the length as you get more comfortable. And of course, the most important piece of advice I can give you, the absolute cornerstone of fluency. Speaking practice is the only way forward. You can learn all the vocabulary and grammar in the world. You can listen to countless hours of English, but if you won't actually open your mouth and speak, you won't become truly fluent. Don't wait for perfection. Don't wait until you feel ready. Just start speaking now. The sooner you start, the sooner you'll improve. If possible, find speaking partners. This could be a language exchange partner, a tutor, or even a friend who is also learning English. Real-time interaction is crucial because it forces you to think on your feet, respond spontaneously, and adapt to the flow of a conversation. I remember a student named Carlos who struggled with pauses in group conversations. He found a language exchange partner online, and they committed to 30-minute video calls twice a week. At first, he was very hesitant, but having a dedicated, non-judgmental space to practice, where the other person was also learning, made all the difference. He told me, "Sophia, it felt like a safe zone. I knew it was okay to make mistakes, and my partner was so patient." After a few weeks, the words just started coming out faster, without me even thinking. You can find language exchange partners online through various apps and websites, or perhaps in local community groups. Even a 15-minute chat a few times a week can make a massive difference to your confidence and fluency. It's truly invaluable. If finding a partner isn't always possible, or if you're just starting out, talk to yourself. Seriously. This might sound silly, but it's incredibly effective and completely judgment-free. Describe your day out loud to yourself. Practice explaining a concept you just learned. Rehearse what you might say in an upcoming situation, like ordering food or asking for directions. You can even practice in front of a mirror, making eye contact with your reflection as you speak. This builds confidence without the pressure of an audience, allowing you to experiment with new words and phrases without any fear of judgment. It's your safe space to practice and get comfortable. Finally, consider joining English clubs or groups in your local area or online. These often provide a safe, supportive environment where you can practice speaking with other learners and sometimes native speakers. The shared goal creates a motivating atmosphere, and you'll find that everyone is in the same boat, making mistakes and learning together. The collective energy can be incredibly uplifting and encouraging. I had another student, Lena, who joined an online English book club. At first, she was terrified to speak during their weekly discussions. But seeing other learners, some more advanced, some at her level, all making an effort and supporting each other, gave her the courage. She started with just one sentence, then two, and soon she was contributing regularly. The group setting helped her realize that natural conversation often involves slight pauses and that it's perfectly normal. My encouragement to you is this: don't wait until you feel ready or perfect. The path to fluency is paved with speaking, even if it's imperfect at first. Every time you open your mouth, every time you try to express an idea, you are taking a courageous step forward. Be patient with yourself, be kind to yourself, celebrate every small victory, and just keep practicing. You are capable of incredible progress, and I truly, truly believe in you. You've got this. We've covered a lot of ground today, from understanding why we pause to implementing practical strategies for cutting down on those pauses and building unwavering confidence. Now, let's bring it all together with some advanced tips and a quick recap of our key takeaways, ensuring you have a clear path forward. As you progress on your fluency journey, as you integrate these strategies into your daily practice, you'll start to develop a fascinating skill called thinking ahead or predictive speaking. This isn't something you force, but rather something that emerges naturally with consistent practice and extensive exposure to English. As your brain becomes more accustomed to English patterns, it will start to anticipate next words or phrases, almost like an intelligent auto-complete for your speech. For example, if you say, "I went to the," your brain already anticipates common follow-ups like store, bank, park, school, or work. This anticipation cuts down on your processing time and consequently your pauses, because your brain is already a step ahead. It's a wonderful sign of growing fluency, a sign that English is becoming more automatic for you. Another subtle but incredibly powerful tool that fluent speakers use is intonation and stress to guide the listener. Remember how we talked about natural pauses versus pauses from uncertainty? Fluent native speakers often use pauses for effect, to emphasize a point, to create a dramatic pause, or to allow the listener to absorb a key piece of information. "I went to the store, and you won't believe what happened next." That pause adds suspense and draws the listener in. As you get more comfortable and confident, you'll learn to tell the difference between a pause that means "I'm stuck" and a pause that means "listen closely. This is important." This adds a layer of sophistication and expressiveness to your speech, making it more engaging and dynamic. And a final crucial point for all your learning, something I cannot emphasize enough: the importance of regular short bursts of practice. It's not about how much time you spend in one go, but how consistently you practice. Think of it like building a muscle. Short, regular workouts are far more effective than one long, exhausting session once a week. 15 minutes of focused English practice every day is far, far more effective than 2 hours crammed into a single weekend session. Make English a part of your daily routine. While you're cooking, describe the ingredients and the steps in English. While you're commuting, listen to an English podcast and try shadowing a few sentences. While you're walking, narrate your surroundings. These small, consistent efforts really add up over time and build incredible momentum, making English a natural, integrated part of your life. Consistency is truly key. Let's quickly recap the key strategies we've explored today to help you speak English fluently without pausing. A journey that is absolutely within your reach. Firstly, we focused on building an active vocabulary, moving words from your passive understanding to your active speaking ability by learning them in context with their collocations and by theme. Remember Anya and her thingy gadget, and how learning thematic vocabulary helped her effortlessly describe her new appliance. Secondly, we emphasized direct thinking, training your brain to think directly in English, bypassing that slow inner translator through inner monologues and integrating English into your daily tasks. Think of Maria narrating her day in English, building those direct neural pathways. Then, we tackled grammar and flow, mastering common high-frequency sentence structures, using sentence starters and connectors to link your ideas smoothly and strategically using natural fillers to buy yourself thinking time. David's improved presentation, flowing with confidence, is a great example here. We also discussed the power of paraphrasing and simplification, Don't get stuck if you can't find the exact word. Describe it simply using words you know. Remember Kenji explaining the light-bending concept effortlessly. And finally, we highlighted the crucial role of mindset and consistent practice. Embracing mistakes as learning opportunities, recording yourself speaking for self-analysis, actively listening to native speakers, and shadowing their rhythm. And most importantly, engaging in regular speaking practice, whether with a partner, to yourself, or in a group. Emma's journey to overcoming her fear of mistakes is a powerful testament to the transformative power of a growth mindset. And Carlos and Lena's stories show how finding the right practice environment can make all the difference. Now, for our Pause Patrol mini challenge. As you listen to this episode, did you notice any moments where I paused naturally for effect or to transition between ideas? Or perhaps, did you imagine how some of the characters in our stories might have used these strategies to cut down on their own pauses? It's a fun way to keep thinking about fluency even after the episode ends, to keep that learning muscle engaged. My dear listeners, remember that speaking English fluently without pausing is a journey, not a fixed destination. There will be days when you feel incredibly smooth and articulate, and days when you still stumble, when a word still feels just out of reach. And that is perfectly okay. The goal isn't to be perfect, but to be better than you were yesterday, to make consistent progress, and to really enjoy the process. Be patient with yourself, be kind to yourself, celebrate every small victory, and just keep practicing. You are capable of incredible progress, and I truly, truly believe in you. You've got this. I encourage you to pick just one or two strategies from today's episode and try to implement them consistently this week. Maybe it's practicing your inner monologue for 5 minutes a day, or perhaps focusing on learning new vocabulary with its collocations. Whatever it is, take that first step. Small steps really do lead to big changes. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider sharing it with a friend or family member who is also learning English. Your support helps us reach more learners around the world. And I'd absolutely love to hear from you. What are your biggest challenges with pausing? What strategies have worked wonders for you? Leave a comment on our website or send us a message on social media. Your feedback helps us create even better content for you, tailored to your needs. Join me next time on the Best English Podcast, where we'll be exploring another fascinating and practical aspect of mastering the English language. Until then, keep practicing, keep speaking, and keep shining. This is Sophia, signing off. Bye for now.